Hi, friends. Welcome to Enlightened World Network. Dr. Ruth Anderson here with the new month numerology report. We've got Michele Landers, EWN's very favorite numerologist, here with us. So, July. Michele, please tell us good things about July.
Would you like me to do that, Ruth? Thank you so much. Would you like me to tell you good things? Well, it's a mixed bag, as most months are, but first of all, I cannot even believe that here we are entering the second half of the year. And in July, we're just going to be experiencing so many different shifts. There's a lot of energetic astrological shifts going on. And July is the 7th month of the year. So we have the energy of the number 7 to talk about, as well as the number 5, because we arrive at 5 by adding the 7 of July to the year 2023. And when you reduce all those numbers, you can reduce it to a single number, it comes to 5. So it's all about how all of these numbers interact with one another. And plus, I find what's so interesting is the astrological part adds a little bit more to it, but it always seems to be so in sync with numerology, because 5 is a very, very wild, active, passionate number. So that's some of the stuff we're going to experience this month. So as I said, we have a whole host of really active planets swirling around, conjunctions, oppositions, and more. So we have this roller coaster, fun house, quote unquote, energy of the number 5. And in the United States, we have a lot going on as far as the 9 and the 7 energy to look at. So first, I just want to talk about some really important transits. So the very happy good news is we have this period, like the first 3 days or the first week of July has this fortunate energy about it. So how that's going to manifest in our lives or in your lives personally is make sure that it's just a great time to either set up meetings, if you have projects to launch. It's a time to do it, be bold, step up, step out, really try and make that first week count. I know that for myself, knowing this, I have my book that I want to relaunch, and I'm trying to get it out like within the first 7, maybe I'll push it 10 days. So make that first week count, because it seems as if things might get a little wonky after that. And I'm thinking maybe this might be a mini watershed month. And I don't know how you can have a mini watershed anything, but I will say that. So within the first week, we have the full moon on July 3rd, and this is a full buck moon, and it's also a super moon. So when we say it's a super moon, what we mean by that is the moon is much closer to the Earth. So what does that mean? It's much closer to the Earth. Well, the gravitational pull is much stronger during a supermoon. So that means on a physical level, there's this potential as far as the Earth is concerned, and I'll get to us personally, this seismic activities. So again, we have to be on the lookout for shakeups, earthquakes, water, lots of water again, and full moons to a lesser or a greater degree usually bring a turning point. And yeah, I know this is every month, and it might be in some ways it's just subtle, but it does bring a turning point, a culmination, a breakdown, a breakthrough, ending of things coming to a end. So during a full moon, what you want to do is just concentrate more on what are the things you want to let go of. So again, we have this every month, this full moon energy. So it's not like having a year-long energy, but it is there. So, just pay attention. Our emotions are bound to be really activated. They're activated during a full moon anyway, but especially this full moon. And in addition, because we are also in Cancer season, and the sign of Cancer is sensitive, it's emotional, it's psychic. So on the whole, many of us will feel this heightened energy. But the sign of Cancer is also about nourishing. So we're going to feel more inclined to nourish ourselves, nourish our family, even asking ourselves, how can we, how can I nourish myself and nourish my family? Now, and not to be confusing, because again, we have all of this activity going on, although it's Cancer season, which goes from June 21st to July 22nd, this full moon is in Capricorn. I know that's confusing. People have asked me, wait a minute, why isn't it in Cancer? Because the full moon is always in the opposite sign of whatever that month is. So although we have the sign of Cancer, which is very sensitive and emotional energies, which is absolutely true, the moon in Capricorn has more of this get it done power, even government. So what does that mean? Well, this can re-emphasize eruptions again, and I'm seeing that more than one time, so that I'm thinking something's erupting, whether that's politically, emotionally, physically, having to do with the earth, turbulence, storms. I think here in Florida, very likely we're going to get a hurricane this year. Volcanoes, news can be very emotional. It's a time of completion and closure. And I always want to mention, these full moons, it's not just really for one day. It can be a few days before or a few days after, and even a week. And for those of us who think the idea that the full moon can affect us is questionable, I just read something recently, oh, that's hogwash. And let me just say, report is from this publication called Healthline, and it found that 81% of mental health professionals believe the full moon has an effect on people. And it can even make them stressed or ill, but it does. I mean, we're water. I don't know what the percentage is, 65, 75. So it definitely has a pull on us. So individually and collectively, this energy can bring revelations, reevaluations, like, what are you doing? What are we doing? What needs to change? And that's going to be on a global level. I think there's a lot going on globally, a lot of questioning going on, a lot of relationships ending. And just as a side note, I don't know what's going to happen here, but I think the Ukraine and Russia war began almost 18 months ago, and cycles in numerology go in 9 cycles of 9. So I think it's 18 months. So I am hoping that and praying that this means that there's a shift coming, and hopefully it's going to come to an end soon. And we also have Mars in Leo until June 10th, and that can be really motivating. It's active, it encourages us to do something, and that's kind of along the line of, I said, the first week or even first 10 days, get going. And that's echoed with the energy of the 5, which is the ruling number for July. So what's the flip side? Because always when I speak about the numbers, I always want to emphasize that as we grow spiritually, we want to capture and focus more on the positive energy of whatever the number is that we are transiting through, or whatever year that we're transiting through as far as numbers, because there's always a flip side. And one side teaches us, and if we go, oh, okay, I need to learn that lesson, then it makes it a lot easier. So that is a great energy to get things done. It's passionate, it's curious, it's fun. What's the flip side of it? Well, the flip side of that energy is explosive, literally and figuratively. So we just want to keep a check on, yes, give into some of this high energy. However, don't get carried away. Don't overdo it. Don't, because then you're just going to wind up, the universe has a way of just like slapping you back down and say, wait a minute. I said be encouraging, be passionate, but don't overdo things. And we also have Mercury in Leo. Mercury is fast moving, it's quick wit, it's quick thinking, it's about possibilities. Mercury, it's a lot of opinions. Leo is fiery, and this transit can have us as a whole and individually asking, well, what do we want to create? And I think this is the energy across, globally right now. What's going on here? What are we doing? What can we create? We're halfway through this year. How can we change things? So with this fiery, thinking fast, moving energy can bring us into alignment with who we really are and what direction do we want to go in. And that's going to be, I think, question uppermost in a lot of people's minds. So we also have Mars in Virgo from July 10th to August. And we know, again, Mars is fiery. Mars is even more like, and Virgo is very practical, very meticulous. It can be a bit of a perfectionist. And on the positive side, it brings assertiveness, it brings motivation. On the flip side, it can bring nitpickiness, criticism or conflict. So there might be somebody that either on the world stage, or you might find it within your own immediate realm, your environment. People being critical. So Virgo also has to do with health. So individually and collectively, health, I think, is going to be an issue this month. And what can we do to support our health? So I really sat with this a while, but I'm going to share it with the caveat that I'm a little bit on the fence about this, probably because I don't want it to happen. But some astrologers are saying that we can be hit with not a pandemic, but an epidemic. And I'm so on the fence about it because I also know, which I'll get to in a minute, that the United States is shifting its astrological house for the next year. And we're going into a 6, which I'll talk about in a little bit. And that has a lot to do with health but I'm really digressing. Let me just get back to this. So an epidemic, maybe. And the reason I'm even mentioning it is I just heard about this malaria outbreak. Now, malaria hasn't been around for 20 years or something like that. And it's usually confined just to, very tropical environments. But it's in Texas. And now I just heard it's in Florida. So I'm not trying to scare everyone. I don't think we're going to get another pandemic, but I do think, we have to, I'm just giving everybody a little gentle nudge here, especially with Mars and Virgo, just to make sure. I mean, this is sage advice anytime, but I'm trying to drive the point home this month do everything you can, if you're not already doing that, to support your physical health. So we'll see how that goes. But again, I don't think it's a pandemic, but I think something's brewing here. So another aspect of this transit is people asking, hey, show me the facts. I want to know what's going on. So we might get a new understanding, new insights about ourselves, our relationships. And again, this is individually, but it's also collectively or globally, if you will. So hopefully we're going to have more things are going to be revealed. We'll have a new understanding of what's going on, a new awareness. And then we also have Venus, which I love Venus, and Venus enters Leo, and both are very passionate on July 6th. So this is really interesting because it could bring a change with the energy is about a change in rulership around the world. So I don't know what that's going to look like, but rulership and relationships are on the agenda individually and globally. So something may happen. There may be a ruler that I can't even imagine where this could happen, but that might step on, or maybe somebody older that was in rulership passes away. I'm not sure about that, but it does have to do with rulership. So around the 17th, we have the new moon, which is going to trigger the second house of the US, which is money, and also the eighth house. And this energy can bring, like, this is nothing new. I feel like a broken record. It can bring disgrace. It can bring scandals. It can bring corruption. So we're certainly not done with all the stuff that's being dredged up over and over again. And even this one astrologer, Joni Patri, I think her name is, she thinks that something's going on with power and somebody's going to step down or something to do with that. So there's a lot of activity going on in that realm. So the energy here can really bring like a breakout of information, so many things being revealed, shakeups, possibly somebody for the US entering the presidential race that wasn't expected. You know, it's like, wow, who's that? Where did that come from? And the flip side of this is that the new moon also brings a breath of fresh air, new beginnings, fresh energy, transformation. We are going through a period, and I know it's a long-term period, where there are going to be changes in top-down structures. And although that's globally, it's very, very, very strong in the US. So on July 18th, I want to mention this, even though it's a longer term transit, but it does start on the 18th. So we have the North Node, which is where we're going, which enters Aries, and the South Node in Libra, which is where we were or past, until January 2025. So why am I mentioning it now? Because it's starting. So the nodes aren't actual planets, they're just points, and they're always opposite one another. So the South Node reveals or talks about the shadow work that we as a society must deal with. Now, why am I mentioning it? Because it hasn't been in Aries and Libra for about 18 years, which I'll talk about in a minute. So it represents as a whole the lessons that we're here to learn. It asks the question over and over again, can we live in harmony with others? How can we live in harmony and still be true to ourselves? I don't think that's so hard to do, but apparently, as a whole, apparently it is. So the North Node's presence in Aries over the next couple of years is going to bring to the forefront more than ever. How are we going to do that? So when I say to the forefront, it's going to be more people hopefully peacefully protesting, or activists and groups forming that say, we've got to change this. We know this. We've known this for a long time. I think it's gathering more steam, so to speak. So another interesting concept in astrology, the current North Node, South Node transit is about balancing karma from 18 or 19 years ago. And that might seem strange, but you know, these cycles repeat, they bring up things just like in numerology. Everything goes in 9-year cycles and you repeat it again. Hopefully you learned your lessons the first time. So because 18 to 19 years ago, we had the same transit taking place, well, what does that mean? Well, if we go back in time, 18 or 19 years ago to 2005 or 2006, what were we dealing with individually and as a group? And it was interesting because I thought about it, and there was a big shift I had 18 or 19 years ago. It happened to be really good. So I'm hoping that I have a repeat of that. So it doesn't mean that whatever you were experiencing 18 or 19 years ago is going to be exactly the same, but the energy and the energy of that time, or the lessons we needed to learn, are going to be echoed to a certain degree. Now, again, I have to keep repeating, this is a long-term energy, long-term in the fact that it's going to go to 2025. So it's the rest of this year, 2024, well, pretty much the rest of this year, and then 2024. So that will come up. So I would love for people to go back and say, okay, what was I dealing with then? Was there a great time? Was it a not so great time? What were the issues? So if we go back to 2005, in late August, which I found this really interesting, considering I think we are going to get some really strong hurricanes this year. In late August, we had what? A devastating hurricane, Katrina. And in October, Florida was hit with Wilma. So I would not be surprised if we had, unfortunately, a really active hurricane season. And of course, the weather, it's just going to continue to be extreme. The storms are going to continue to be extreme. Emotional storms breaking out as well. In 2006, we had a tsunami in Indonesia. So I'm reiterating again and again, this is a long-term aspect, but I just want people to be aware of it, because really the bottom line is it's all about lessons we have to learn, and about, you know, changing things up for ourselves and looking at it in a different light. So a transit that a lot of astrologers have been talking about for months finally arrives, and Venus, as I said, the planet of pleasure and beauty and love and money and social interactions, it's going, which I just mentioned, goes retrograde in the fire sign Leo, and that brings out and up and out, you know, issues having to do with love, with marriage, with relationships, and individually and globally. So it can bring someone back from our past. And the past is generally what's going on with retrogrades. When retrogrades happen, it's all about going back over things. So how is that going to happen globally? I'm not sure, but it is going back over things. So we might be questioning relationships, what went wrong with previous relationships, but it also can transform relationships. So we can think about, all right, think about your relationships and what do we really, really desire in one? and we may have a shift emotionally. So I will say it's not the best time to get married. And I don't know if I should even say that, because if somebody's listening to this and they have plans to get married, they go, oh my God. So I'm just saying nothing. I don't believe anything catastrophic would happen. I'm just pointing out it might be a good idea to put it off for a little while if you can. If not, if you love each other, it's about relationships anyway, just be very much in alignment with your partner. Not a great time either to make large purchases. So overall, we have this energy that's a lot of confusion, delays, time locks, punctuated with some really fun times. So we have, let's talk about the number 5, since I didn't even get to that. The number 5, which that is the overall energy globally for the, obviously globally for the world. Number 5 can be absolutely joyful and fun. It is passionate. I always say when somebody goes into a 5 personal year, welcome to the fun house, and also the hall of mirrors and smoke, or smoke and mirrors. So this month is such a mixture of good times, of fun times, of changes, big changes, unexpected events. It has a lot to do with travel, big focus on travel this month. And that's good and bad, because I don't know, there just seems to be so much going on with space, and that could be inner space, outer space. It has to do with your creativity. And like the 14th card of the tarot, oh, I should show that, right? Yeah, look at this card. Okay, we can see that, right? Can you see that? That's temperance. Temperance is like, just weighing things. It's about creating something new. It's the alchemist, doing something different. It has a lot to do with youth and children, however that's going to show up this month. It can be hyped up energy. Oh, I know, the other card I wanted to show you was the Hierophant, okay? And the reason I love this card so much, it's because the Hierophant is the bridge between heaven and earth. And it says, look, I know that you are a spiritual being having a physical experience, and you can have fun and you can enjoy some of the pleasures that you can get with earth, but also understand that you are a spiritual being. So all of those things that you do, have fun, be creative, but don't be attached to any of it. And that's kind of hard. That's our challenge always, right? Living on this earth. So things can be unstable and changeable, but it's up to us to be really, really flexible. Just be aware, be careful, because 5 Leo is so passionate. Be careful again of overreacting, being impulsive. A 5 energy, you can expect the unexpected. And things might seem like, oh my God, they so terrible right now, but they go from bad to good and good to bad in a nanosecond. So as much as possible, stay in the flow of things. Just allow the energy of the month to kind of unfold and don't get too attached. And sometimes in a 5, your plans change. You go, darn, we're so counting on that. Okay, don't worry about it. If you're not attached to it, something else can show up almost immediately, as long as you're being flexible and not attached. So again, the Temperance card is about bringing balance and moderation into your life. So this is really in alignment with the number 5 and how the 5 asks us to be flexible. What do you need to balance in your life? And even if things are chaotic, which I think this month is going to bring a lot of that. How do we remain balanced? How do we remain calm? Keep a check on our emotions, because honestly, I can't imagine that our emotions aren't going to be triggered. So this is a good challenge for us. And this element of alchemy with the temperance, I love, because it's about blending and combining things to come up with something new, something different. Oh gosh, I just thought of something that I would love to show people. It's just a little riddle, and to encourage people to think outside the box. I really, really, really encourage people to not just be focused on what you see right in front of your nose. Be flexible, come up with new ideas for things, be creative. This is a wonderful month for that. Coming up with new ideas, new creative ideas, changing things up. Okay, so that could be artistically, it can be with food. I don't know why I'm mentioning that. It's about bringing things together to form something that is really harmonious, whether it's an atmosphere, the atmosphere around you, or it's an experience, or it's a thing that you come up with. So that is really encouraging. That's the encouraging part of the 5. And as far as the US goes, on another note, on the 4th of July, which is the birthday of the US, of course, again, which I started to talk about, I think, it's changing to a 6 astrological house transit. Now that's until next July. So that energy combines with the remainder of the year. And for the US, that's a 9. So it has been, and it's going to bring endings to things and changing things and breakdown of structures and whether that's figuratively or literally. And now we have 6 astrological house. So the 9 calls for endings and letting go of what's no longer working, and a very emotional year. But the 7 year is the investigator, and the 7 year, which we are in globally, we know that nothing is exactly the way it seems, and that reality or things are just often hidden behind illusions. So the 7 is a number of spiritual realization, and it represents introspective thinking and intuitive aspects of yourself. So lots of investigation going on this month, and also realization. So since the US is in a 9 year with a 6 astrological house, all of these aspects that I mentioned are being highlighted, and most are due for an overhaul and an ending of sorts. And in other words, the way we're doing things is just no longer viable. So again, because even though I'm mentioning it now, it's a year-long transit, and I can't imagine we won't have a lot of changes and endings with this combo, especially on the health front and work. And as far as health issues, well, one of the things I mentioned is the epidemic. So it's revisiting or going back over the pandemic, any mistakes that were made, or maybe more things being revealed about it, but more light being shed on the initiation of the pandemic. I'm really hoping that, again, it's not going to bring anything really strange, just maybe this malaria that we've been hearing about. But we do have so many planets in retrograde, and retrogrades always ask us to go back over things. So because of all of this energy, sometimes it's a little bit unstable. We're going to experience like conflict on the global stage. But it also brings in fresh new energy, artistically, medically, visionaries. And it can compel us to confront our fears, our codependencies, which I hope a lot of people do as far as relationships go. and a big emphasis on health and medicine. And I just heard, and this is along the lines of a lot of news that we've been hearing, a lot of advances medically, which really excites me. But I just heard of a new drug that can target astrocytomas. And the word astro, because they're shaped like stars, it occurs in the brain or on the spinal cord, and they can be deadly. But there's this new drug out that is so promising, for astrocytomas. So that, when I heard that, I go, yeah, that's what we're going through. We're going through a lot of overhauls and changes, new medical treatments. So overall, this is a real roller coaster ride this month, as if we haven't had that before. But until the dust settles, meaning until we can get to the other side of all these upheavals and changes, it's going to be like this. And again, but punctuated with very positive things, which I would love people to focus on. There's a lot of theatrics, a lot of drama. I do not see a recession. I know I've been hearing about that from people for a while. We're going to go into a, I don't see that. I just don't. At least not now, or not in the foreseeable future. Stock market volatile, it's always kind of volatile, but crashing, no, I don't believe that. Positive, on the positive note, more people banding together, more positive advances in technology and medicine, more interest in children. I'm not sure how that's going to play out. Climate changes, many more people involved in spirituality. So that's the really good part. And I love this quote by a nice nin, for what it's worth: life shrinks or expands according to our courage. So have courage, be fearless, embrace the positive energy of the five. Know that it's all leading eventually to a really good outcome for the world, whether you believe that or not, and have faith. So that's it for this month. And thank you guys for listening to these forecasts every month. I'm hoping that they encourage people.
Thank you, Michele. A couple of thoughts. Yes, the first week of July, great time to embrace whatever is coming our way. Fortunate energy, we can always use that. I loved when you were talking about the full moon and how some people believes that it impacts behavior. And I was a director of human resources at a school district. We had 4,000 employees. And I can tell you that we saw the worst behavior out of our employees during the times of the full moon. And we would just know that you could just tell, because the number of complaints that were coming in, and you'd say, must be a full moon. And it was.
Wow.
Yes, there's something to that.
Wow.
And I think my guess on that is that folks that are kind of on the edge, mentally, emotionally, and can usually keep good behavior going, they just kind of get pushed off their axis a little bit with that full moon. And then we get to see the other side of them. But that, because the folks that were normally really even keeled were fine. It was the folks that were really on the edge with mental health. Those are the ones that we saw kind of getting tipped over at the full moons.
Wow. Wow. Yeah. There's no, I mean, we see the moon, we know, and I know people like to physically see things, but we know that the moon has, a pull, a gravitational pull on the ocean, on the waters, and we're made up of mostly water. So it's just an easy calculation, I think. Yeah. So it should be a very, very interesting month. I think that despite some of the challenges of the month, I think it could be a good month for us and bringing a little bit more joy to our hearts. At least I'm hoping.
Yes. Can I ask a question? When you talked about the karma from 19 years ago being balanced, when you talk about karma, are you saying something like, if at that particular time in your life, if you were cold and not loving to other people, you know, harsh on other people, then maybe that would come back on you? Or what does that karma mean to you?
Karma is, you know, simply whatever we put out comes back. So that's good and bad. So maybe you put out some really good karma 18 or 19 years ago, and karma is always, you know, recycling, I guess, in a way, or coming back, going over and over. But this is more of maybe a bigger issue at that time, if you had a bigger issue. So it's would come if you didn't deal with it. That's the really important part. If you didn't deal with it, if you didn't learn the lesson of it, and now we're talking more about the challenging part, then whatever that was 18 or 19 years ago, some form of it to a greater or lesser degree is going to show up in your life. So I just ask people to really think about what was going on in your life 18 or 19 years ago. Now, if you dealt with it 18 or 19, it was like, whew, boy, that was a close one, but I learned my lesson. Okay, don't worry about it. Or something really good happened 18 or 19 years ago. So that transit energy is back again. Now, we always have to keep in mind that I mean, that's a bigger transit, but for any person within their individual chart, it has a lot to do with what's going on in their individual chart as well. But still in all things being equal, think back to 18 or 19 years ago. Where were you at that time? What was going on? So that could bring a repeat of it. But again, if you learn the lesson, don't worry about it.
Okay, interesting. So you mentioned folks having their individual charts done. How do they do that, Michele? And is that something you can do for folks?
I can, and I love doing the charts, especially the baby destiny charts. Shameless plug for that. Yeah, so if you want your chart done, you can just go to my website, michellelanders.com, and order a chart from there. If you want to chat about it, go to my website and find the button to set up a free 15-minute conversation with me. You know, before somebody takes that plunge, they may want to talk to me about it. I'm more than happy, you know, to discuss it, to see if it's a right fit for them. And people can get a year-long chart, or they can get, I guess the best way to express it is the full enchilada, which is, what is your mission in life? What is your purpose? What about your personality? What did you bring over from another lifetime? What are your challenges? What are your pinnacles? I called up my son-in-law and I said, look, I don't know if I mentioned this to you, but you are in a really, really positive sign for money. And I know that makes him happy, because one time I asked him, what's your favorite thing to do? And he said, make deposits. So he's a good guy, though, without a doubt. It's not all about money for him, but he's a good guy. So, and I don't even have the time, honestly, to do my family's charts in full. But I happened to be checking out, you know, some transits, and I saw that. And so I thought I would, and I knew that would make him happy, you know. So, yes. So anyway, I got off the topic, kind of. Yeah. So that's what a chart will do for you, is show you, a full chart gives you not only your yearly forecast, but all of the other things I mentioned to help you understand a little bit about who you are. And are you on the right path? You know, every path that you're on, I guess you are where you're supposed to be, for sure. But On the other side of that, there may be things in your life that you're not understanding or realizing what your purpose is, and fulfilling that purpose and that destiny, that gift. Everybody has a gift to share with the world, and that's what it's about. It's not just about us. We're in this together for a reason. And so whatever your gift is meant to share with the world. So if you think you don't have a gift, I'm telling you, you do. So that's what they can do. Go to my website or make a appointment for a free consult.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Michele. And I can tell you, friends, that I've had some bumps in my life, and I've been able to go back and look at my chart and go, oh yeah, saw this one coming. So,
Thank you.
so thank you so much. Looking forward to this July, Michele Landers. And friends, we do the new month numerology the first day of every month of the year. So please join us when we're coming back for August. But for now, enjoy July. So take good care. God bless. We'll see you all soon. Thanks, Michele.
Thank you. Bye.